The New York Jets need some help this offseason. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Utility Sports. I'm a big-time New York Jets fan, and if you are too, make sure to leave a like on this video. Also, subscribe if you are new and you enjoy the content you see in this video. We've been doing offseason previews for different teams. We have one up for the Detroit Lions already up on the channel, and now we're doing ours for the New York Jets and their offseason preview. Of course, I'm a big-time Jets fan, and there's a lot of work that goes into these videos behind the scenes, putting together presentations, graphics, and also making sure that all the content is accurate, and a lot of planning as well for what a potential offseason could look like for these teams. Make sure to leave a comment about what team you would like to see us do next. I do already have some comments from our Lions video, so there's going to be some I'm getting to already, but leave a comment below just so I can see what team you'd like to see on the channel. We're going to be doing all 32 teams, hopefully, before the offseason gets here. And I think the Jets are an interesting team to talk about for an offseason preview. They have 2 top 10 picks, 4 picks in the top 40. They also have about $50 million in cap space, so there's a lot of things that can go right this offseason for the New York Jets. Without further ado, though, let's jump into it. Again, leave a like, please. It does help us a lot. And leave a comment as well, letting us know your thoughts. Subscribe if you are new. And now let's jump into it here with a video preview. What are we going to be talking about in this New York Jets offseason preview? First of all, we're going to talk a little bit about this past season. We're going to talk about GM Joe Douglas, quarterback Zach Wilson, roster outlook for 2022, who we've got under contract already, who I think is going to be key players for us going into next season. And then, of course, the 2 main dogs here, free agency and the NFL draft. This is the order that these things go. You start with your own roster, analyze what you got, go into free agency with your money, try and upgrade in a few positional groups, and then go into the draft and really try and put the cherry on top and find everything that you need to hopefully make this team a lot better going into next season. And I think there is a lot of upside for this New York Jets team. Carl Lawson will be coming back. That's one of the key things that we have to talk about yet in this video. And let's start here with Joe Douglas, going into his 3rd offseason now as general manager of the New York Jets. Through the first 2 years, he is 6-27. So, been a little bit of a bumpy road, but you have to remember, he's inherited a lot of crap. With 3 first-round picks so far, Joe Douglas has drafted 3 offensive players, and an early second-round pick last year took Elijah Moore as well. So he's been very committed to offense, even with Robert Saleh as the head coach, which I don't think a lot of people expected. 2 of those 3 first-round picks have been offensive linemen as well, when you consider Mekhi Becton and Elijah Vera-Tucker. And then, of course, they found their quarterback with Zach Wilson out of BYU. Notable free agency signings so far have included Corey Davis and Carl Lawson. So he spent some money at the wide receiver spot and also found an edge in free agency. Of course, Carl Lawson ended up going down last year with an Achilles injury, did shorten his season, and really did put the Jets in a little bit of a bind in terms of what they had coming off the edge. And now for my thoughts on Joe Douglas. Like I said, he inherited a lot of crap. Came in, Adam Gase was his head coach, Le'Veon Bell on a big contract. He had Sam Darnold as a quarterback, which I think everyone around the world is starting to see how bad he really is. He didn't really have any talent at wide receiver. He inherited Jamison Crowder and his bad contract, inherited a really bad defense. And he's done some really good things to turn this ship around. I think the only questionable one so far is looking at some of the contract renegotiations with certain guys. Marcus May right now, of course, he had an injury though, so maybe Joe Douglas has better foresight than anyone else when you look at some of those injuries. But I think one thing he has done really well is trade. Some of the moves he made, trading Chris Herndon to the Minnesota Vikings for a 4th-round pick. That was an absolute steal. Herndon never even really found a role with the Minnesota Vikings. You also look at trading Jamal Adams for 2 first-round picks. That was an absolute hit, especially now at once in the top 10. And I think he's drafted really well as well. Mekhi Becton was a hit. Elijah Vera-Tucker is a hit. I think Zach Wilson's a hit. I'm pretty confident that I think he'll be a good quarterback in his career. I think I've seen enough from him in year 1 to believe it. I do have a little bit more concern than I thought I would after his rookie year, just because of coming in, I thought, maybe this kid has a chance of being the best player from the class. I don't necessarily know if I believe that anymore, but I still think he can be a good NFL quarterback. So I'm not going to hit the panic button yet. I think Joe Douglas done really well. Elijah Moore was a really good pickup. Michael Carter was a great selection as well. He's done good. I think Joe Douglas is going to be a good GM. And I really don't say that very often. I did not believe that about McHagnon at all. And I think the Jets finally have a good one here with JD. So I'm happy about that. If you're a Jets fan and you think Joe Douglas is the right guy for the job, leave a like on this video as well. Please, guys, just hit that like button. It does really help us a lot. So moving into Zach Wilson, my thoughts on Zach Wilson. In his rookie season, played in 13 games, 55.5% completion percentage or so, a little bit over 2,300 pass yards, 9 touchdowns to 11 interceptions. And the big one there, sacked 44 times. Of course, Mekhi Becton did miss a good chunk of the season, but getting sacked that many times is really problematic. You can't have that happen. He's got to get the ball out a little bit quicker, especially in those 13 games. You're looking at over 3 sacks a game there, nearly 3.5 sacks a game. That's just not acceptable. He's got to get the ball out a little bit faster. And part of that is, Corey Davis was out. Elijah Moore didn't really come on until late, and then he had IR himself. And like I said, Mekhi Becton was out. So once you move Fant back to right tackle, who really stood out this year, and then you also have Mekhi Becton back at left tackle. Hopefully your offensive line holds up a little bit better. I think they need a little bit of more help up the interior of that offensive line, probably get a good center in there. That would really help Zach Wilson a lot. But I think his rookie year, he definitely showed flashes. You think about that run against the Jacksonville Jaguars, some of the throws he makes on the run, his connection with Corey Davis, the chemistry that those two clearly had this year gives you enough flashes that you can believe in what he is as a quarterback. There's still some ways to go. He's got to learn blitz protections. He's got to make better reads sometimes with the football. But I think there's enough upside there. Didn't really run the football too much as a rookie. I was expecting a little bit more from him. But I think that he's still got a good upside long term. So I'm not going to hit the panic button on Zach Wilson yet, Jets fans. I know it's usually pretty easy to do that when you have guys like Mark Sanchez, Geno Smith, also Sam Darnold historically. I mean, even in the last decade, all 3 of those guys came through. None of them really worked out, of course. I think Zach Wilson is a different story here, though. Moving now into our key offensive players that we have under contract for roster outlook. Zach Wilson, we have the QB spot filled, like I said. Running back, Michael Carter, we got our RB1. Corey Davis, Elijah Moore, Denzel Mims. Those are our top 3 wide receivers coming into next year. Mims, I know I'm kind of questioning what he's going to be. I don't necessarily know if he's going to stick, but there's a chance he does. I'm not exactly sold on it, though. I don't think Joe Douglas is either. Ryan Griffin at tight end. I included him on here because I think that kind of goes to show how bad our tight end room is. That he is looked at as the key tight end to be keeping. We definitely need to improve there. Mekhi Becton at left tackle, left guard Elijah Vera Tucker, Connor McGovern, Greg Van Roten up the middle, at center and right guard. And you see there, I included the dead cap numbers for those two. I think that very likely we get to a point where maybe one or both of those guys are not on the Jets at the start of next year, just based on the dead cap. I think Greg Van Roten probably going to be gone. And I think Connor McGovern, if the Jets have a chance at Tyler Linderbaum, 10th overall, or if they have a chance at a good center in free agency, very possible that we see McGovern released as well. And then George Fant, I think he really solidified himself as a solid offensive lineman this year. And I think he's going to be a key piece for us moving forward along the offensive front. Now, I'm not going to rule out Joe Douglas taking a tackle. Maybe if a guy falls to us, maybe he would, like if Evan Neal's there at 4, which I would think is not going to happen, given the fact that the Jaguars are in front of us and also the Houston Texans. But you never know. Joe Douglas loves his offensive linemen, especially when they're athletic and can get out in space. He's shown that so far with the Becton and Vera Tucker picks. Maybe he would do the same thing if Evan Neal was there. But I think at this point, George Fant probably going to be circled in as the right tackle for starting next season. Going into the defensive side of the ball here, more roster outlook, key guys under contract already. We got Carl Lawson, who I think is really the key guy we need to talk about here. His production would have been immense for the New York Jets this year. His ability to get after the quarterback. I know his career high in sacks is 6, but he's really good at forcing pressure and getting hurries. And I think there's not enough credit given to defensive players who force the ball out faster. Getting home is obviously important. You want to get sacks. It really sets opponents up for bad drives because you end up having to deal with down and distance. And it becomes a lot more difficult to get that first down. But I think even just getting the ball out quicker would help some of the Jets' young cornerbacks. Quinnen Williams, he's a beast along the defensive line. I think he's a really solid piece for us. John Franklin Myers, I think he showed some flashes this year, had a pretty good year. Sheldon Rankins, rotational D tackle, nothing super important there. I think he has a decent role here, though. CJ Mosley, Quincy Williams, Bryce Huff are our 3 linebackers still under contract. Mosley, I believe in. Quincy Williams, 50-50 on. He makes some really nice plays. But there's also just times where it's like, okay, we need to upgrade over this. Some of the stuff he does is just a little concerning. Bryce Huff, I think, has had flashes, but I don't really think he's a key piece moving forward. I think he's an interesting name to have on here. Bryce Hall, though, what a good season. I believe he finished top 5 in pass breakups and also forced incompletion. So really good season for Bryce Hall. And then Jason Pinnock and Brandon Eccles. Javelin Guidry should be on here as well, actually. When you look at 3 cornerbacks who are young, fast. And Joe Douglas really does show that he doesn't necessarily need to prioritize cornerback early to get production out of the position. However, I do think they would be benefited by finding a cornerback early. A guy like Derek Stingley, maybe Ahmad Gardner from Cincinnati could make some sense. But Pinnock, Eccles, Guidry all had pretty solid seasons for us this year. So I think I wouldn't be necessarily super surprised if the Jets really don't address cornerback on days 1 or 2 in the NFL draft. And then Ashton Davis, I think we're going to need a big step up from Ashton Davis this year. Of course, Joe Douglas drafted him in his first draft here with the New York Jets. And when he did that, it signaled that Jamal Adams had played his last down for the New York Jets to me. But now we need to see more out of Ashton Davis. I liked him coming out of college. I thought he had enough athleticism where he could be a really interesting safety. Now we're heading into an offseason where Marcus May probably won't be back, which is where it brings us 2 key players headed to free agency. Of course, we've got Marcus May here, Foley Fatukasi's on here, Jamison Crowder, Laurent Duvernay-Tardif, Keelan Cole, Javelin Guidry, and Mike White. So key players here for me. Let's start with Marcus May. He's already, into his late 20s, which is surprising because we only drafted him, 4 years ago, getting up there close to 5. But Marcus May, I just feel like he's played his last game as a New York Jet. I don't see him coming back. That entry doesn't make him more appealing to me. I don't think it's going to make him more appealing to Joe Douglas either. In fact, I think Marcus May probably ends up with the Kansas City Chiefs or another team losing a safety in free agency. Maybe a team like the New Orleans Saints could make some sense for Marcus May. Foley Fatukasi, I think we're going to try and keep him back. I want to keep as much depth on our D-line as possible. I think it's huge for Robert Saleh's defense and his scheme to have guys you can rotate in frequently. Jamison Crowder, he's gone. I had a few DNPs this year and wasn't active for certain games. So I think Jamison Crowder will not be on the New York Jets next season. Laurent Duvernay-Tardif, one of the names on here that I actually really have a lot of interest in. He used to be a really good guard for the Kansas City Chiefs. We acquired him in a deal this year. Of course, didn't really play for us, but when you look at what I think he could be if he comes back to football, I think he could be a valuable guard. We get re-sign opportunities with him before free agency starts. And I would love to see LDT here staying with the New York Jets. I think he would be a good upgrade at that right guard spot. Javelin Guidry, Keelan Cole. I talked about Guidry a lot. I would love to have him back. I think he's huge for us. Keelan Cole actually served a pretty nice role, had around 500 receiving yards this year. And then QB Mike White, I think we keep him around as our backup QB for the long term. Heading now into free agency. What are we going to do with those guys? With the money we have an estimated $51 million in cap space, according to Spot Track. They do really great work with salary cap management and really keeping their eyes on all 32 teams. So shout out to them for helping me along with this video a little bit. Offseason needs. Tight end. No surprise to see that number 1 on the list. Wide receiver, interior offensive line, safety, linebacker. Those are the 5 position groups I mentioned here. I think cornerback you could probably throw on there as the 6th one. I wouldn't be surprised to see us not address it though. Tight end for me, I think, is a really big deal. I think we need to find someone who's a nice option for Zach Wilson, help your young quarterback out. Wide receiver, I think we need a 3rd one into the mix. Denzel Mims, I'm just not buying him as a wide receiver 3 now. Elijah Moore can work the slot. Corey Davis can be an outside. I think we need another outside wide receiver. Interior offensive line could be center, could be guard, especially if we don't keep LDT. I would not be mad about an interior offensive lineman on day 1 of the draft or even day 2. Or definitely in free agency. I mean, there's a good options out there. So I think there's a few guys that we could grab. Safety. We have to address safety at some point. Kyle Hamilton out of Notre Dame. He's probably the one that sticks out to most Jets fans. 4th overall. I would really like to see that. He's a beast. Linebacker as well. I think that we need to find one probably day 2 to help our defense, because so far Joe Douglas has done a really good job helping address certain things on offense. But when you get down to the nitty gritty, you can't have the 32 ranked defense and think that you're going to be a good team. So it's not really how football works. You need to be able to get stops. You need to be able to shut teams down, especially on key plays, key 3rd downs. And the Jets just didn't do that enough this past season. So I think that's some of the areas we really need to improve on. Safety, linebacker, and getting Carl Lawson back should really help this team. When you look now at potential free agent targets, I've got a whole slew of them here. So let's go through them one by one. Wide receiver Mike Williams of the Los Angeles Chargers. He would be perfect for the New York Jets. When you look at how good Corey Davis is after the catch, you consider what Elijah Moore can do after the catch. I think what we need is a big time outside wide receiver where you can just say, hey, a 50-50 ball is really more like a 70-30 ball. And Mike Williams, Justin Herbert, they showed that, especially down the stretch of games. Mike Williams was a beast all season long in the fourth quarter of games. And I think the Jets badly need that. Someone for 2-minute drives. When it's final 2 minutes of the game or the half, someone you can just say, hey, go run a comeback route. We're going to throw you the football and you're going to catch it and we're going to get down the field. Mike Williams, he's going to be the best in the league at that, in my opinion, at least for free agency wise. I think he's going to be the best available player to address that. But he's going to have a hefty price tag. We're looking at $20 million a year probably for Mike Williams this offseason. Chris Godwin, he's young, 25 years old. Mike Williams is actually 27. So Godwin's younger than Mike Williams, and he's going to be a little bit cheaper as well with that ACL injury. My guess is somewhere around 4 years, $72 million, at about $18 million a year. I wouldn't mind him. DJ Chark here, though, I've got him marked from the Jacksonville Jaguars. He's coming off a year where he really didn't play either because of injuries. He's really the outside wide receiver that we could use as well. He's going to be a way cheaper version than Mike Williams. Probably get him on a 3-year, $24 to $30 million deal, $8 to $10 million a year for DJ Chark, based off of what he did with Gardner Minshew. I think he makes a lot of sense because he's got really good deep speed. I think he could stretch the field for us, lets Elijah Moore work across the middle more. And he's actually pretty solid after the catch as well, pretty solid around the end zone. Not a great wide receiver really at anything, but to me, he's a good wide receiver at pretty much everything, and I think there is a lot of value in that. Juju Smith-Schuster, I included his name on here just because his age fits the timeline. I don't necessarily think that's a perfect fit. I think he kind of coincides a little bit with Elijah Moore, but I still think he would be an upgrade over Denzel Mims, so I did include him. Ted Karras here, center. He's been in our division for quite some time, spent some time with the Dolphins, with the Patriots. He would be an interesting upgrade for me over Connor McGovern. Ted Karras, he's not great. I don't think Connor McGovern's great either, though, and I think that the two of them kind of in that similar realm. So if we wanted to save some money, bring in Ted Karras instead, that could make some sense. Ryan Jensen, though, is a for sure upgrade. He's been playing for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He's been playing really good along that offensive line. I think he's going to have a hefty price tag this offseason. I would be interested in bringing him in, but I don't necessarily think that's the perfect player when you consider how much he's going to cost. For me, Brandon Scherf, though, is. You're looking at a really, really good guard who's been doing it really well for Washington for quite some time. I don't think it's likely, though. I think he stays in Washington, but I think the Jets should express interest if he does actually hit the open market. Linebackers, Jayon Brown and Kenny Young are two interesting examples of what they should look at linebacker. I also included Neville Hewitt on here while I was making this video, but I took him off. I don't necessarily see it very likely that he would come back to New York after they decided to not give him a contract last offseason. For me, Jayon Brown, one of the better pass cover linebackers in the NFL, would really help us on third down. You put him next to CJ Mosley, and you've got a really good linebacking duo there. Kenny Young, really athletic. I think that's one thing that stands out when you watch him. He got traded to the Broncos this past season. I think he probably sticks in Denver. I would like to see him in Jets colors, but I think he'll probably be a Bronco next season. And then we got two interesting names here at safety. There are two different routes here. Marcus Williams, he's young, 25 years old. The idea here is you bring him in. He's a pretty good coverage guy, even though, Minneapolis Miracle would indicate maybe he isn't. But I think he is actually a really good cover safety in the NFL. And for me, if you draft Kyle Hamilton 4th overall, or if you have plans to do that, Marcus Williams and him would be an elite safety duo. You go quickly from Jamal Adams and Marcus May to Marcus Williams and Kyle Hamilton, and it's a really, really good safety pairing. Otherwise, if you want to give yourself a little bit of flexibility, Kyle Hamilton's really good in the box. So maybe a guy like Anthony Harris, who's more of just a playmaking free safety. When he was with the Minnesota Vikings, made a ton of plays. Felt like he was getting 6 to 10 picks every single season, basically, for them. Probably not actually that many, but it felt that way watching those games. And Anthony Harris, this year, he's been pretty solid for the Eagles as well. They are the surprise team in the playoffs right now in the NFC, and I think Anthony Harris would be a nice pickup for the Jets. Definitely would be an upgrade over some of the other pieces we've got back there. I think, safety spot, if you don't believe in Ashton Davis, those two guys would get the job done. These are some of the guys I thought of for potential free agents. If you're a Jets fan, let me know who you think would be a great free agent fit. Of course, there's a ton of guys out there. So these were the ones I highlighted. Definitely a lot of options, though. So this is nothing concrete. This is just my thoughts on it. I'd love to hear in the comment section what your guys' thoughts are. Let's go into the NFL draft here now. And we've got a ton of picks. Like I said, 4 in the top 40, 2 in the top 10, picks 35, 38, really valuable selections, pick 68. We have 2 picks in the 4th round via Minnesota and Carolina. And then also our own pick in round 5 and Pittsburgh's pick in round 5 from the Avery Williamson trade, which feels so long ago, by the way. But it's nice now because we have a good amount of selections. We've got 4 in the first 2 rounds. And then we've also got a total of 9. So we've got 9 draft picks to work with, and they're all round 5 or higher. So they're actually really valuable picks. And I think Joe Douglas probably looks to be aggressive on draft night. Here are some NFL draft targets for me in round 1. Safety Kyle Hamilton out of Notre Dame. Like I said, he's a big safety, range. He can play up in the box. I love this kid. He's arguably the best defensive player in the class. And if he wasn't playing safety, if he was playing more the traditional positions that get valued like edge and cornerback, he'd arguably be the first overall pick. I wouldn't be absolutely shocked if the Jaguars surprised the world and took him first overall. He's really, really good, and I think if the Jets can get him 4th overall, that's a phenomenal pickup. Cornerbacks here, Derek Stingley, Ahmad Gardner. There's a lot of controversy around Derek Stingley because of some of his injury history. I know Jets fans aren't in love with grabbing Derek Stingley, but I do think he would be a really good corner, and I really picture seeing him and Bryce Hall together. That's 2 really good outside corners. Derek Stingley, when he plays, is elite. So don't forget that. Ahmad Gardner, another guy who doesn't give up touchdowns. I think he would really help the Jets on 3rd downs as well, get off the field a little bit more frequently. Played pretty well against Alabama in their matchup to get to the national championship. Of course, Cincinnati did not win, but Ahmad Gardner himself had a pretty good game. And then 2 interior offensive linemen here. Tyler Linderbaum for me. Pick 4. Maybe they'll even consider it that high. He's a center from Iowa, All-American, really smart kid, really good getting to the 2nd level, and just kind of really cements and anchors this offensive line. For me, I wouldn't be surprised if Joe Douglas does go 3 offensive linemen in 3 years in the 1st round, and I wouldn't be mad about it either. The Jets offensively would be much better. Our offensive line would be solid. Michael Carter would reap the benefits running the football as well. Kenyon Green, what an athletic beast. Now, this is a guy that really fits Joe Douglas's draft style. I don't think he goes as high as pick 10, but maybe the Jets say, hey, let's move down, try and pick up another day 2 pick in a deal and see if we can get Kenyon Green around pick 18 to 22. I think there's a lot of value to that. You put him at right guard, he's an immediate upgrade over Greg Van Roten. And then at that point, you are looking really scary if you have Mekhi Becton, Elijah Vera Tucker. Skip the center spot for now. Kenyon Green at right guard. He's a natural left guard, but we'd obviously play him at right guard. And then you have George Fant at right tackle. If he plays next year the way he did this year, you just really need to find a good long-term center. Connor McGovern, he can fill in, though. He's fine. We could leave him there. It just is a little bit more expensive than I would like. And then wide receiver Garrett Wilson on here as well. I talked a lot about wide receivers in free agency. Maybe Joe Douglas doesn't want to spend more in free agency because he's already spending so much on Corey Davis. Maybe he wants to address one in round 1, though, with these 2 picks. Garrett Wilson could be a really good one. Jameson Williams has elite speed. He does have an injury right now from the national title game, so I think Garrett Wilson would be the more likely one. But these are all great options for the Jets. If you get any combination of these, don't go cornerback, of course. Don't go Stingley and Gardner together. But even Linderbaum and Kenyon Green together, I wouldn't even be mad because then think about the offensive line. But any combination of these, I think, are going to be good. Kyle Hamilton, I'd like to see him in Jets colors. But at the end of the day, I think that they're going to do pretty well this offseason with the 1st round picks. Rounds 2 and 3, we've got some linebackers highlighted here. Christian Harris, Henry To'oTo'o, 2 really good options. Darian Kendrick, I think, would be an absolute steal in round 2. Didn't give up any touchdowns this year in over 400 coverage snaps. Also had 4 interceptions for Georgia. He was part of the best defense, arguably, in college football history. And they played really well all season long, and Darian Kendrick's a big reason why. Tight ends, Jets fans, take a sigh, take a deep breath, take a sigh of relief. Trey McBride, Jalen Weidermeyer. Those are 2 good day 2 tight end options that you could look at. Colorado State kid and Texas A&M kid in that order. McBride's really the one that stands out to me. Really good blocker and also put up a ton of numbers at Colorado State. Really productive tight end. I think that's the type of tight end the Jets need. Wide receiver Jahan Dotson out of Penn State does make some sense to me as well. Then we have 2 edges on here, Nick Bonito and Arnold Ebiketie from Penn State. I think that those 2 could make some sense as well in round 3 for the Jets around pick 68. Just because I do think that we could use another situational pass rusher, someone to keep our legs fresh, especially with Carl Lawson coming off an injury. But I think these are really good, realistic targets for day 2. And then heading in to day 3, I've got a few other ones. Running back Breece Hall out of Iowa State, Alec Lindstrom, interior offensive lineman from Boston College, Zion Nelson out of Miami. I think he could be an intriguing tackle with someone who, at the beginning of the process, could have been a day 1 pick. But didn't have the best season. He's still very athletic. I think moving him into guard would actually be really good for his career. Cornerback Sevin Banks, who was projected to be a round 1 pick before the season started, just didn't really have that type of season for Ohio State. then Justin Ross out of Clemson could be an intriguing pickup as well. Kind of mirrors a little bit of what Elijah Moore does, but he's a talented player. And that's kind of why I picture him coming in. Just get more talent on the field. Breece Hall, you use him to spell Michael Carter. I know a lot of people really like Ty Johnson. I do, but I think Breece Hall would definitely be an upgrade. Has a little bit better long speed. I think that's something the Jets could use. Lindstrom, Zion Nelson could be nice offensive line project pieces for the Jets that have some decent upside for me. And then a cornerback, wide receiver. Basically, my thoughts here are I included a wide variety of positions, just depending on what they draft rounds 1 through 3. I don't see them double dipping into positions very frequently. So say they don't go with a wide receiver in rounds 1, 2, or 3, probably day 4 or day 3, round 4, they come back with a pick like Justin Ross. So that's kind of my thoughts on that. Hopefully that makes sense for you guys. And then my hopes for 2022, this is where we're going to conclude the video here. I'm hoping for a 7-10 record. I want to have a competitive season. I want us to push a little bit in the division, get a couple key divisional wins. I want to beat the Buffalo Bills once. I want to beat the Miami Dolphins once. And I would love to beat the New England Patriots once. I want to be near neutral in points for and points against. We have been absolutely terrible in those marks the last 3 years. Of course, Adam Gates is a key reason to blame for that. But even this past year, we weren't great in that. I want to be close to 0 for points for, points against. I don't want to be getting outscored by a ton. And I want Zach Wilson to really pop in year 2. I want him to take a massive step forward, kind of like what we saw from Josh Allen in Buffalo. I want to see him really start applying some of those traits to what he is as a quarterback and really have some memorable moments in 2022. I don't think this is going to be a playoff team by any stretch unless we have the perfect offseason. But I think that there is a lot of ways that we can improve and at least become a competitive team, kind of like what we saw from Atlanta this year. Maybe not the most talented team, but better, competitive in games, pushing divisional opponents. I want to see that from the New York Jets. Hopefully you guys did enjoy today's video. If you did, make sure to leave a like, subscribe as well if you're new. This has been my offseason preview for my New York Jets. Jets fans, leave a like, and we'll catch you in the very next Utility Sports video.